Welcome on in, folks. Wake up! That's what Corey would be saying if he was here, but he's not in the car with me right now. We're doing this one in the car, folks.
Does Corey say the wake up, or do you say the wake up?
He says it one way, then I'm the one who's like, wake up!
Okay.
He does it in his own version. That's Ira Schoffel, by the way. He's driving. I'm in shotgun. We're both buckled up. Nobody's texting. We're just driving. It's Wake Up Warchant, brought to you by For the Table Hospitality. Their three great locations are over in the Collegetown District, Madison Social, Central, and Township. You already know that. But yeah, so we did this at a bar on a Monday night, and now we're in a rental car, nice and comfy, alongside Ira Schoffel, managing editor. How are you, Ira?
I'm good. So this is the first mobile edition of Wake Up Warchant?
Dude, we're doing this across time zones. We're going to be crossing into the Eastern time zone here. It'll be crazy, man. But when will the show air? Will that affect it? I don't know. Where we're going, we don't need no roads, I think Doc Brown would say. All right, so we were in Panama City Beach. Third stop of Willie Taggart's Spring Booster Tour. His second one was earlier in the day in Pensacola. They had a bit of a luncheon. Why didn't we go to the luncheon?
A little bit further to drive to Pensacola.
All right. I figured maybe you were all about, early bird getting the worm. It would have been in and out of there, and we could have been back home. You could have been back home with the kids by 7 o'clock supper time or something. But I appreciate it because I would have been sleeping still.
Yeah, I think it worked out better. Plus, we got a nice dinner. It was a nice meal. It was a little different spread than you guys had over in Jacksonville, so it was a good time.
Yeah, shout out, by the way, to Connie Warren. Her husband is Jam Nolfin. Nolfin?
Sure.
Yeah.
Jamie Warren.
He's the really passionate booster who is a frequent visitor and guest of ours on the Tribal Council. But his wife, I think, is the president of the PC Knowles, which is Panama City. Great, man. To no offense to our friends in Duval, a little bit cut above, just a little bit of cut above.
It was just different. It was a different experience.
Yeah, it was more of a formal dinner sort of thing where the Jacksonville thing was a golf outing, and then we're all going to hang out afterwards. So, but yeah, it was very nice, man. Again, I think they said 370 people. That was the most they've had at an event since probably 2014, and that was Florida State coming off potentially the greatest season in their entire program's history. So, another robust turnout. How many of these sort of things have you been to in your time, Ira, these booster functions?
I've probably been to about 10 of them. I think I caught a couple towards the tail end of Coach Bowden's tenure. But back then, it was like early 2000s. There really wasn't a lot of excitement around the program in 2002, 2003, 2004. So
None at all.
They weren't really must-see events. And then, I went to several of Jimbo's, which were usually kind of snoozers. It was a lot of the Jimbo's. His talking points were a lot like he was just talking to the media. It wasn't very cordial. It was just kind of matter of fact talking about business. This was a little bit more kind of like Coach Bowden style with Willie, connecting with the fans. And I know it was a lot of it was repetitive for you, the main portion from what you heard in Jacksonville, but he's like a rock star, man. It's like watching the Beatles, the way people respond to this guy.
Memories, mornings, and music. Those are the three things. I'm a radio guy. I like talking about. That was Gene Deckerhoff. So if you're going to go to one of these boosters' houses, be prepared to hear Willie talk about music, mornings, and memories. But yeah, no, he's doing a great job, and I think he's even a little bit more comfortable. I've seen him at the Tallahassee Car Museum on National Signing Day, then saw him in Jacksonville. So I think he's starting to find his voice and his sort of go-to lines and things like that. But he was able to answer some questions from the crowd. We'll have a best of, if you will, mashup of some of his answers and responses from the previous night up on warchant.com alongside a story from Ira, from what you kind of gleaned out of what he talked about when he was with us in the media, because I don't want you to give it a lot of it away, but you're probably going to because it's hard not to. But I think there was more football talk that we got out of Willie, some new insight that we haven't heard from him before. Maybe just, give us just a little tease so that people go to warchant.com and put the hook in them.
It was the first time that I've got to talk to him away from since spring football, since the spring game. And I know you guys spoke to him on Monday night in Jacksonville, but that conversation, the Jacksonville media, no offense, man, you guys kind of got dominated. You and Gene kind of
boxed out. Boxed out.
The Jacksonville media kind of ran that show and asked a lot of questions we'd all talked about all spring. So this was nice because there wasn't as much media there over in Panama City, and we got to talk to him about kind of what happens now, what the summer workout program entails, but also basically the summer practices that the players are going to run. I thought one of the most interesting things he talked about was, it's not just 7-on-7 or some individual quarterback and a couple receivers going out. I mean, it sounds like their team is going to have to go out and run practices without coaches. Like, he wants the entire team, or large parts of it, to be going out to the practice fields and kind of recreating what they did in spring practice on their own, because the coaches can't be out there by NCAA laws. It sounds a lot more intense and a lot more sophisticated than just, hey, go out and play a little 7-on-7.
And my question was, so he kept getting asked about quarterbacks, and he's like, it's the onus is on them now to become leaders and get their team kind of organized in the offseason. Like, what happens if James Blackman's like, yo, let's all meet up on Thursday at 2 o'clock and practice?
DeAndre says,
like, I can't do it.
Or DeAndre's like, I'm thinking Wednesday at 9.
Yeah. Like, what happens there, man?
Well, I asked him, I said, do you specifically designate who gets to be in charge? And he said, no, it kind of has to come from them. But I'm curious how that all plays out. I mean, I definitely think, you asked him about James Blackman. It's something else I'm sure we'll be writing about. But you asked him about James Blackman and how, what he likes about him, and he talks about that kid in a different tone, I think, than he talks about the other quarterbacks.
He does. Just prepare yourself, Team Francois, Team Frenchie, Frenchie faction. Just get yourself ready. That's all I'm trying to say. I'm not picking sides. It's just, even when he was asked about it in the crowd, it comes back to, like, who's going to win the quarterback, and he's not going to tell us who, obviously, but keeps pointing out, listen, athletically, all three of these guys are gifted, and maybe even in their own special way, but I don't think there's nothing amazingly arm talent wise that DeAndre has that James doesn't have, and vice versa. And I don't even think really running wise, mobility wise, DeAndre has anything that much more significantly better than James. So ultimately, it's, man, when I'm going to call in a play, who's going to have the sort of authority, who's going to have that voice that they're going to listen to, who's the guy that's going to get these players to push it for an extra rep during spring or rather the summer when that comes up. It's just, he keeps going back to the whole leadership thing.
And so that's how he talks about it when you ask the general questions. But then when you ask him specifically about Blackman, he's like, oh, man, the thing I love about that kid is the team loves him. The players love him. They just revolve around him. He's got natural leadership. He's a great teammate. And then we didn't ask him specifically about DeAndre or Bailey tonight, but when he has in the past about DeAndre, it's always, he's got to learn to be a better teammate. He's got to learn to get the trust of his... So, I mean, that's not to say the competition's over. It's not to say that DeAndre or Bailey can't make up some ground. But in terms of right now, when he talks about the things he wants, and then he describes James Blackman, it sounds like a meeting of the two questions.
Yeah, and I asked Coach, I'm like, there's something because I'm like, maybe there's something he just sees in him that reminds him of himself, and that's just going to make you kind of like, gravitate towards the guy. But he just kind of joked about they're both undersized.
Yeah, they're both kind of skinny.
Yeah, but he's like, when I can call James skinny, you're really skinny if I can call you skinny. He was laughing at himself, but he pointed out that James has gone ahead and put on 12 pounds this offseason, so he hopes for even more as the summer sort of progresses. I want to get to this point. That's why I'm stumbling all over myself right here. I want to look at, because when you think of all these great freshmen that came in last year, you got Cam Akers, Tamori, and Terry. I'm not saying these are Blackman guys, but I remember seeing a tweet or two about, I think, Cam tagged James in during the season, just kind of like, this is my, we're gonna ball out together, bro, that kind of stuff.
Is there a picture of DJ Matthews with Blackman too?
Yeah. So I want to kind of go in here and see if I can maybe make a point, which it's terrible radio, but it's really not radio when you're in a vehicle, right? You want to pick up something?
Can I fill some airtime here?
Do it, man.
We got some breaking news you might have seen on Warchant.com last night, but one of the astute audience members asked Willie Taggart what they had to do to get him to retire Peter Warwick's number at the Virginia Tech game.
Yes.
Since everybody knows his jersey's going to be retired, but they haven't said when it would happen. And Peter Warwick said, we interviewed him a few weeks ago, and he said he hoped it would be at the Virginia Tech game, but even he didn't know when it was going to happen. And Coach Taggart tonight said at the event, he said, well, if you want to see it retired, you need to come to the Virginia Tech game. So there you go, a little breaking news. That's going to be can you imagine when they put up the highlights of Peter Warwick before that game? They're showing highlights of P-Dub against Virginia
just
Tech.
catching touchdowns, catching dimes from Winky. Yeah, that place is gonna erupt. I get I'm the negative guy, but even I got chills right now. You can't see because I have really hairy arms and it's a dark car. But yeah, no, exactly. That Jumbotron highlights Deckerhoff. Oh, touchdown, Peter Warwick, and then the place is gonna go berserk. So that's super cool. I mean, think about those two guys growing up. Yeah. Peter's the dude, Willie's just some kid, and then now Willie's like, this is my program, but I still got love for you, man. Like, this night is about me, but it's going to be about you too. So a super cool moment for Manatee County products. So, all right, with that said, I got my sort of thing here, and maybe it'll make a little bit of sense. That 2015 class that DeAndre was part of, like, these were the offensive weapons that were part of that class alongside of him. George Campbell, Jalen Wilkerson, who was a tight end, but he moved to defensive line. Good luck tomorrow, by the way, Jalen, or later today, or actually Saturday, probably Sunday.
Probably not today.
Yeah. Naquan and Auden Tate. Those are pretty much like your skill position guys, and Jaquez, although we call him Jock on this program, Ira, so hope you're comfortable with that. So I don't know how much of the fact that James Blackman might also have a little bit of, I don't want to say favoritism, but he came in with Cam, he came in with Tamorian Terry, he came in with DJ Matthews. They're all part of the same recruiting class, and I'm not saying that James was one of the guys that was calling these guys, hey, you got to come to the floor, stay with me, but I just feel like you probably bond a little bit more, and then Francois being 3 years into the game, I mean, the guys I'm listing off, I mean, Devontae Phillips is one of the guys, he's gone. I mean, Nooney's just kind of, I think Nooney probably, just dancing to the beat of his own drummer.
Jaquez.
Whatever.
Quezzy.
Sorry, maybe that's not a very good point.
I see what you're saying, and I do think, man, I think that the strength or the core of this kind of team, especially what we saw in the spring, it was that's those second year players, those Kalen Laybourne and
there you go, that guy too.
They got there's a nucleus there, and look, I don't think there's any denying that James Blackman has that charisma, that personality. So he's the leader in the clubhouse. I mean, Francois not only has to get healthy, but he has to, rebuild relationships with the coaches and the players. And then on top of that, he's got to become something that he really hasn't been. I mean, that's not his personality. He's much more introverted, kind of a quiet kid compared to James Blackman. So that's going to be I think there's a long way for him to go to win the job, and Willie Taggart's not going to say it, but again, you kind of add up all of these things, like what he said at this event, and it kind of starts to paint that picture.
You're getting so many people upset. I need to play the air horn of because that's the new hot button topic, because so many people just want to choke me, and maybe Cord to a lesser extent, of just how can you not grasp the fact that DeAndre Francois is better than James Blackman? If Francois doesn't get hurt last year, there's no way that team stutters and stumbles to a 7-6 sort of finish, which I'm like, that's actually a pretty good point. But Corey's point is the fact this is a whole new offense, but I don't know how much you're really starting from scratch. I mean, both guys have shown it. I mean, I would think that James showed a tendency to make, more head-scratching throws than DeAndre, but like DeAndre was not without fault in 2016. I mean, he had some stinkers as well. So it's one of those things where it does feel like they're probably pretty evenly matched in terms of resume and skill set physically. So the intangible stuff is going to be the tiebreaker. And right now, James has that kind of edge.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's been a lot of talk about this on your guys' show, and also heard Jeff and Tom Lang on
Jeff Cameron show 3 to 6 p.m. right here, ESPN.
And I feel like that last part you just kind of threw in there about the turnovers is a big part of the James Blackman story that a lot of people don't talk about. But I mean, he handed a couple games away. Now I do think Jimbo put him in poor positions. Maybe don't have him running an option play. Maybe don't have him.
You can't fumble against Louisville. You just can't do that.
I'm with you.
You can't do that.
I'm saying, and the interceptions. I mean, he really hurt them with turnovers last year. Now, again, I would defend him to say that maybe don't put the ball in his hand as much as to make plays as Jimbo did. I felt like Jimbo kind of got cavalier with him midway through the season, but that's one part of it. It's a big part. I mean, I don't know is that who James Blackman is, or is that just because of the offense he's in? And on the other side, a lot of people talk about Francois and his inaccuracy as a redshirt freshman, but I also don't know how much of that was a part of him struggling to comprehend Jimbo's offense. So I think to Corey's point that you mentioned, I think is valid. We really don't know how much of the past performances we can use to glean for the future, because it is going to be a totally different thing.
Past performance perhaps not an indicator of future success, or whatever they say out there. Crazy thing too about Kalen LeBourne, in case you guys are wondering, if him talking to the media after the spring game wasn't enough evidence, I mean, Willie even went ahead and said, Kalen LeBourne, bowl game, yo, coach, pulled a shirt. Like, Kalen LeBourne wanted to play that bad last year that he wanted to get rid of his red shirt. And it's so tough to say, you know, we are the sum of our decisions. I don't want to get too philosophical here, Ira, okay? So we are the sum of...
How deep can we get when we're driving in a rental car? Well, I guess we could.
On 231 in Bay County. We're not even in Bay County. I don't know where we are right now. We're not even... We're close to the interstate. Good gosh, Siri, talk to us. Where are we?
About 10 miles away.
I don't think so.
About 10 miles away from civilization.
That's taking us to State Road 20. It's not even taking us on the interstate, man. Although, careful, there's a police officer up ahead. That app is telling us.
Hey, if we go missing...
Yeah.
You need to come find us in the backwoods of the Panhandle.
Yeah, 231, maybe mile marker 49 or something. But, you know, we're the sum of our decisions and our experiences. You know, just like James Blackman, I hope he didn't get his growth stunted last year from getting thrown that fire. I hope DeAndre Francois ultimately will not be stunted by having to be thrown in the fire in 2016. Now, as a redshirt freshman, again, the crap kicked out of him, right? I mean, I don't know how much of that sort of stuff you can shake out of your system. But a guy like Kalen LeBourne, Tamorian Terry, now we could arguably see Terry maybe go out and have double-digit touchdowns in 2018. We could see maybe Kalen LeBourne rip off 600 yards and have 8 touchdowns. Everyone's going to be like, where the heck were those kids? I just don't know how much, like, making these, I don't want to say making them sit, but just there's got to be value sometimes in these kids, no matter how ready they think they are. I refuse to believe that Jimbo Fisher was just some sort of crazy maniacal jerk that was like, these guys are awesome, but I don't care. They're not. I'm just going to do it out of principle. Just there's got to be something to it where these guys, they'll never tell you that they weren't ready to play. They're competitors. They all think they're ready to play from day one. And they probably were. That was a very poor performing offense. Hard to imagine Kalen LeBourne not helping out, Tamorian Terry not helping out. But ultimately, that maybe somewhere down the line, Willie Taggart will be a little bit thankful that these guys, you know, he's got them fresh and not, you know, that's not a damaged box goods. These guys are fresh out the package. They haven't had anything that's ever going to damage their psyche. Everything they're going to understand and know about football at the collegiate level is going to be from what Willie's told them and taught them.
Well, I think he even said after the spring game, he said, "I'm kind of glad they redshirted, you know, because he gets them fresh." Yeah, I don't know. The Kalen LeBourne thing, I don't know how much he would have helped. I mean, he would have helped in a game or two where they were banged up at running back. But, you know, when Cam Akers was right, you know, they were doing okay at running backs between him and Patrick. As far as Terry goes, I do think that, you know, whatever was going on there, I think the biggest issue was, you know, what we saw with Keith Gavin as a freshman, what we saw with DJ Matthews as a freshman, which we saw with so many different guys where, you know, if you didn't know the whole offense, you couldn't get on the field. They weren't going to tailor things to any specific receiver. So I think that's one of the positives to what Willie's going to do. But one thing he talked about at the Panama City event also was the offensive line. Somebody asked about the offensive line. And
shout out to that kid. I think his name was Harrison. Good question, kid.
He did. A couple really good questions from the audience. But he asked about the offensive line, and thought Willie was political at first with his answer. He said, I said they're going to be the foundation of everything we do. I call them the tunnel diggers. He said they're going to be the foundation of whatever we do. That doesn't mean they're going to be great. It just means, hey, if we're not great, point to those guys. That's how but then he came back and said, no, they're going to be a lot better. He said they're going to be a lot better than you saw. You know, he pointed out that in the spring game, some guys were hurt. They had split up the team. And he said he thinks they'll be better. He one good line, he said that he wants his offensive line to be a group. He said that they keep it simple on the offensive line because he wants those guys to rattle the fillings of defensive linemen. Ooh. Rattle the fillings of defense. I don't know if they don't have fillings. I guess you just...
What if they've got good dentistry? What if they've never gotten a cow and good diet?
They don't have fillings that'll rattle. I don't know. But anyway, so he gave them a little vote of confidence. He said they're going to be better than what we've seen so far.
Right. So yeah, it was a great night out there. I don't know what's his next stop. I don't even know.
Well, I know next week. I'm not sure what his next stop is, but next week I know we're going to go. I think check him out in Orlando. I think he's going to be in Lakeland. He's got Ocala coming up. I think at some point, crisscrossing the state, checking out. One nice thing that what happens at these local events is it gives a chance to local media to ask about their products from that area who play for Florida State. And so the local media was asking him about Janarius Robinson and Deontay Sheffield. He gave really great anecdotes on both of those guys, talking about Janarius Robinson and how his personality and how when Willie got here, he was like one of the most welcoming players, is just really a good guy. And also
called him his buddy, made me feel like I was his buddy, is what he said.
Exactly. Yeah. It was just kind of cool to hear about a player kind of having that impact on a coach. And then Deontay Sheffield, he said that he's kind of like a mini recruiting coordinator. Deontay Sheffield will go to the coaches and show them like film of kids he sees on the internet and be like, hey, you guys should recruit this guy. And he said he does a good job. Everything that he's shown them is like, these guys can really play.
He's got an eye for talent. Good. Yeah, the only thing about a little bit worse about Janarius was, it wasn't like, oh, he's going to be great for us. It was like, you'll be proud of him. He's a good kid. He's really nice. It's kind of like what girls talk about me. You're really nice. He did
say that he was impressed with him physically and thought, hey, we're going to be able to do some fun things with this guy. The other thing, he talked about the strength staff, and you asked him about Coach O and the strength staff, and he talked about pretty openly that, when he saw these players at FSU, he was so
mutants. They're mutants.
He said they all looked like mutants and how big they were. He said, but then when they got them in the weight room, they realized they weren't quite as strong as they would have expected, and so they've been working on that. And I thought, it was pretty candid of him to say, and but he said that that's one of the things they're really working on this offseason.
It's just they didn't look good, man. They didn't look good coming off the bus. I know it says they're mutants. Yeah, they're tall, but there just wasn't a lot of hulking sort of guys. I remember just walking up and down the sideline before the Chick-fil-A kickoff game with Alabama and Florida State, and I remember I'm just thinking, I'm like, dang. I'm like, Cole Minshew is the only guy I see on this offensive line that looks like you could put a crimson jersey on him and he would fit in on that sideline. Otherwise, it'd be like, imposter. No.
Will the real offensive lineman please stand up?
He did not take the deer antler spray. He did not take it. The fact that he'll admit those sort of things, I think, is extremely encouraging. On a positive sign, we're like part of the strength process they have in the spring game, the spring season is before and after photos.
Yeah.
Bad news, we're not going to be able to get you those photos, everybody. So chill out. I know everybody wants to see, L. Dix, Landon Dickerson without his top off, me included. It's probably not going to happen. But he mentioned that Marvin Wilson was one of the guys that he saw before, after they, show these guys. Like, why were they not doing that before? Maybe they were, but isn't that the best sort of thing to do to motivate these guys? Like, hey, man, here's where you were 90 days ago. Here's where you're at now. Like, everybody give it up for this guy. Look how good he looks. So Marvin Wilson's one of the guys he pointed out, and Marvin Wilson, obviously, hopefully gets healthy, will be a big sort of component for the team. As we wrap things up, I want to let you get some shots in on me here as I'm looking at the map, and it's telling us to turn in a mile and a half, nowhere near the interstate. Like, we're 231. We should be able to keep going. It says I-10. I would say keep going. I say veto that.
You're going to argue with Waze?
It says 24 miles to I-10.
What do you think? What should we do?
22 to 25 minutes ago. I don't know, man. How many more turns are we going to freaking do?
We'll go to I-10. We'll see how it goes.
All right. I feel terrible now. Now everything's riding on my shoulders if we don't make it home. But, I'm all about getting called out if I say things wrong. And we talked about on the way up here. There was a thread that was posted on the Tribal Council the other day. Wes Duvall also called me out and was like, Aslan, you were wrong. The comparisons that somebody had with Willie Taggart. I don't know, what are fair and what are unfair comparisons? This guy kind of came out the gate and was like, Charlie Strong sucked, Tyrone Willingham sucked, Shannon wasn't good either. Why should we not expect it to be differently? And I mentioned this was a potential possible dog whistle, and some people were like, no, you idiot, it was not a dog whistle. This is like out and out, looking at the one thing that really shouldn't matter when you're judging a coach and a man.
Yeah, I thought that it was...
Charlie's fair, though, right? Like, Charlie Strong's fair. Charlie was in that same conference, won 10 games, and they went to a Power 5 job at a school that got rid of a guy who was trending down, yet rebuilt them, and, you know, they were done. They were over it, right? Like, they were like, all right, let's bring in this new guy, fresh blood. Now, I think Willie is completely different than Charlie Strong. They're both African-American guys. We get it. But personality-wise, philosophy-wise, there's nothing similar to them. But I think that's a fair comparison in terms of resume and what you're walking into.
Yeah. I mean, I think that I don't.
If you don't agree, say I'm wrong.
No,
come on, Aaron.
I don't disagree necessarily with Charlie Strong. I felt like that post and singling out those three particular coaches. By the way, we
keep going.
It's told me 3 times to make a U-turn now.
Keep going.
And every time I pass a break in the road, it's telling me to take a U-turn. But you want me to keep going straight.
More, just do it, man. Just follow. Just trust me. Man.
All right, and I'm tracking our time here and what it's going to tell me. All right, it's telling me again, U-turn. Take a U-turn. No. I'm going to go past this one, and what's it going to say?
U-turn.
It's going to say
because we're 20 miles. We're 20 miles away from.
Take a U-turn now, and every time I do it, I'm losing a minute on my time, our projected time. Anyway,
so you're very. That's
so
okay, man.
On the Charlie Strong, yeah, no, I'm not saying that that's a terrible comparison or to ask or to bring up as an issue, but I just felt like tying him, pulling Tyrone Willingham out of your butt from 15 years ago, and Randy Shannon. I just think that it's there are other coaches to talk about that you could compare. The fact that you picked 3 African American head coaches, to me, says that guy had a certain agenda. Whatever. We'll see. At the end of the day, I do think the other point the guy made, though, was that he's tired of all the hoopla. He wants to see this guy do something. But what are we going to do? I mean, there's not a game for 4 or 5 months. I mean, so our options are to act like there aren't differences, there aren't things he's doing that are really positive. And one of the things, again, I'll be writing about that should be up on the site at warchant.com before people hear this podcast.
You can do a U-turn if you want.
Yeah, man, it's so not happy. Now it's got me making a left it's so not happy.
I'm sorry. All right. I really misjudged it.
Make a U-turn.
Don't ever listen to me if I'm riding shotgun. I'm a terrible shotgun driver. Yeah, I don't know, man.
But one thing one thing that Willie talked about, and that I'm going to write about, and again, I'm sure that guy is going to be like, here they go again, blowing this guy up. But he talked about these exit interviews they did with every single player at the end of the spring.
Don't give it all away, man.
Well, the story's up on the site.
All right.
They'll be able to read it.
Warchant.com, Warchant 30, free 30-day trial. Use it, folks.
It'll be much more in depth than I say right here. But, they do these exit interviews with the players, and it's not just, at the end of the spring, it's not just, the position coach or it's just Willie. But, I mean, it's the academic advisors, it's the athletic trainers, it's the position coordinators. They've got a room full of people with every single player talking to them at the end of spring about what they have to work on, what they're going to be held accountable for, what they need to improve on during the offseason. That's pretty thorough.
That's awesome. That's super cool, man.
It really
is.
Yeah. And so, again, I'm going to write about that, and people are going to give this guy a ton of credit for doing it, and I think he deserves credit for doing it. But then other people are going to be like, oh, man, he hasn't done anything yet. Well, what are we supposed to do? Ignore? I mean, these are legitimately positive steps. They don't necessarily mean he's going to win, but I don't think we should ignore him either.
Well, here's my thing. I will say this. I know we got to wrap things up, and I've just taken 10 minutes of Ira's life by making him go on a bad route.
It's all right. We're gonna make our left here soon.
Here's my thing. I've got a bad attitude on things. I'm not proud of it. It's just the way I'm wired, cynical person. Like, I'm glad everybody's happy Bobby's back. That's just not going to translate to anything for me. It's not going to translate to a win for me. I know there's more important things sometimes than winning.
Doesn't make you feel good, though?
I mean, yeah, I guess. I mean, listen, I'm very appreciative of what he did. I'm still resentful of what happened and how we let it get so bad.
Yeah, but time heals all wounds.
It has, and that's the thing. There was time, and I'm cool with it. There's a lot of things that he's doing that, everybody loved, and I'm like, all right, cool, but how is this gonna get us off this freaking island, man? All right, we all got tans now, and it looks cool, but I want to get off this island. I want to go home. I want to get back into the playoff. That is a legitimate thing. Like, I'm going to bring in your academic advisor. I'm going to bring in your position coach. I'm going to bring in the coordinator. I'm going to have myself. We're going to have the strength coach. We're all going to sit down. We're going to talk about what you've done for the last 15 practices, what you need to do, that sort of stuff. That feels to me that's going to have a tangible benefit to these exact players that are going to go out there. The Bowden stuff makes everybody else feel better. It warms everybody's heart. Cool. I want to win games. I think this sort of process that he has in his mind, because we've undersold him, and I don't want to say you, but I'm sure people of my ilk that are, we think that football is a really complicated game that needs to be taught in a very hard way by jerks, by and large. I mean, this guy, he's got a plan for all this. It's not just, hey, we're just going to be really simple and go really fast. Thanks, everybody. See you Saturday. He's got sort of things he wants to do.
Nobody else has thought, hey, if we just go fast, we're going to win.
So that's something that I'm like, all right, cool. All right, I like that. That's a good concept. It's a green arrow. My bad.
Well, he also talked about, and I hadn't really heard him talk about this before, but I hope to, at one of these further stops, when we stalk him around the state, hopefully go
May
a little
1st, Ocala is his next stop.
All right, there you go. Is that he talked about how when his offense wasn't working at USF, he didn't just decide, hey, let's go no huddle. Like, he went to all of those schools and like did research, like met with their staffs at the Clemsons and different schools that run, and then took pieces and really kind of researched it. It wasn't just, hey, let's go at a faster tempo. I do think there's some science to it beyond just, hey, this is fun, let's play some music and win some games. I think there's a little bit more to it than just that. But don't you think part of it's our fault, though, as a media, that, like, we spent the first 6 practices of the spring just talking about the music?
We didn't. It was like 2. It was like 2 or 3. But whether new people would show up and ask the question.
Exactly. And then new players would talk. And, hey, isn't this really fun?
Well, it's 8 o'clock in the morning, and none of us are used to being up that early and having to think. So it's just, I mean, like today, they're like, all right, let's go. And I'm like, so coach, how does it feel to be at another stop? Are you feeling more comfortable? Like, stupid question, but I don't know. We got to get this whole party started. We got to light this candle. We got to ask one question. Also, before we go on to warchant.com. We're doing our draft contest. There's 7 players from Florida State University, 8, I think, if you count Jalen, Heart of the Tiger, Heart of the Lion, Wilkerson. Guess where they're going. Put your predictions in on the Tribal Council, and you can win a prize. So, Ira, let's get your thoughts on these players real quick, if you don't mind. Derwin James, what round is he going in?
Man, I actually wrote him down on the site, but now I'm going to be wrong, and then I'm going to contradict. I'm going to guess what I wrote.
Do you know what page?
Because I put a lot of time.
Were you one of the first repliers? Or page 1?
He put him back in the top of the thread.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
I mean, Derwin James obviously had first round. I'm just, some of these other guys I could have gone anywhere from 3 different rounds. So I think I just guessed.
All right, Josh Sweat, you've got going 2nd round. Look at you!
I'm a believer. I'm a believer.
Like Derek Noddy, 4th round. We all got him going 4th round. Tavares McFadden, 5th round. Nobody loves Tavares. Give me all your stock. Give me all your McFadden stock.
Not as much as you, anyway. I would say this, though. I agree with you, and I heard you on yesterday's show. I agree with you. He's got a chance to have a better career than anybody thinks. But I still don't think he's going to get picked any higher than the 4th or 5th round.
All right, Auden Tate, you've got going in the 4th round.
Another guy who I think could have a really nice career, but the speed is going to keep him down low.
Matthew Thomas, you've got going in the 5th round.
Yeah, I'm just thinking he's the exact opposite. I think his testing numbers are going to con somebody. Well, I won't say con somebody.
Strong language.
Convince somebody to go a little bit earlier than maybe his production would warrant.
And then Ryan Izzo, you got going the 5th round?
That's kind of I like
6th round. 6th round.
I like old Ryan Izzo, trying to throw him a bone, but yeah, I don't know. It's hard. He's a decent blocker. I don't know what. I agree with Corey. I heard you guys talking yesterday. I don't know what teams are looking for, unless you're a Jimmy Graham or whoever. Like, I don't know what they want in a normal traditional tight end. I guess he fits that, but I don't know if you draft somebody for that. I think you can get that off the free agent wire.
I think according to Kuiper, he's the 15th best tight end. I don't know if that gets you drafted if you're the 15th best tight end.
If I had never interviewed him and he hadn't been nice, I probably would have played UFA. But I was trying to throw him a bone there.
All right, that's fair enough. And before we go, shout out to Clay Gilman. Did I give him a shout at the beginning of the show? We had to re-record because I screwed up. But Clay Gilman says that the melodious voice of Corey Clark and myself is helping him get through the final 2 weeks of his law school finals. Keep chopping, Clay. We're rooting for you, man. Hopefully Ira serenaded you as well. Pick C, right? If it's a multiple choice and you don't know the answer, go with C.
Man, somebody in their final 2 weeks of law school does not have to be asking me anything about academics or exams or anything along those lines, because I couldn't have been further away from law school.
Keep dropping wood, Clay. If you know any cute girls, maybe we can do a double date. They'll be wanting to get, their finals are over. Maybe they want to cut loose. Drinks on me, buddy. Thanks for the shout out on the Twitter machine. He's Ira. Thanks for being here, Ira. Thanks for driving, Dad.
I enjoyed it.
Sorry for the bad directions.
Thanks for having me in the rental car.
All right, that's a wrap on Wake Up Warchant. Corey and I will be back on Friday for a full edition with Renegade Express. Have a great one, folks.